gentlemen. All rise for your honour.
I'm Judge Berater at the Old Bailey in London. This is the extradition hearing of Julian Paul Assange. Many have suggested that the proceedings against Mr. Assange should have been thrown out because there have been reports that his confidential meetings with his legal representatives were spied on by those who were seeking his extradition. I don't agree with this legal theory. The United Kingdom has spent many years building up a truly valuable relationship with the United States. We don't want to ruin all that by upsetting them over a political dissident like Mr. Assange. After all, the military agendas of the UK and the US are closely aligned. There are great mutual benefits from manufacturing the armaments needed to perpetrate our military interventions and bring peace to the unstable nations of the world. We are now going to sit through one more witness statement from a second UC Global employee. The defence will now read this onto the court record.
Thank you, Your Honour. I joined the security company UC Global in 2015. The sole administrator and director of UC Global has always been David Morales. I recall that once Donald Trump won the elections at the end of 2016, David Morales asked me to contact providers that sell security cameras, Your Honour, with sophisticated audio recording capabilities. In early December 2017, I was instructed to travel to Ecuador's embassy in London with a colleague to install new security cameras. I was instructed not to share information about the specifications of the recording system, and if asked, to deny that the cameras were recording audio. In fact, Your Honour, I was asked on several occasions by Mr. Assange and the political counsellor Maria Eugenia whether the new cameras recorded sound, to which I replied they didn't. In addition to this, David Morales asked me to travel to London to install microphones in the embassy. I asked him if it was legal. Morales responded that he was the boss and that the responsibility fell on him. I placed the microphone in the meeting room. I placed it in the PVC holder of the fire extinguisher. Additionally, David Morales asked me to install another microphone in the toilet at the end of the embassy, a place that had become strategic because Mr. Assange, who suspected that he was the subject of espionage, had many of his meetings there in order to preserve confidentiality. I concealed a microphone in a cable in the toilet in the back of the embassy. Morales also asked the security personnel employed by UC Global, who were deployed inside the embassy, to obtain Mr. Assange's fingerprints. I am also aware that the security personnel at the embassy stole documentation from Mr. Assange. In the same trip in which I installed new cameras, Morales asked me to steal a nappy of a baby, which according to the company's security personnel regularly visited Mr. Assange. Morales stated that I had to steal the nappy in order to establish whether the baby was a child of Mr. Assange. Morales expressly stated to me that the Americans were the ones who wanted to establish paternity. When I arrived in London, rather than do what I had been asked to do by Morales, I spoke to the mother of the child outside the embassy and indicated that she should not bring the child into the embassy because of the plan to steal the baby's nappies. I recall on one occasion, Your Honor, that Morales said that the Americans were desperate and that they even suggested that more extreme measures should be employed against Mr. Assange. Specifically, the door on the embassy could be left open to allow persons to enter from outside the embassy and kidnap Mr. Assange, or even the possibility of poisoning him. Obviously, we employees were shocked at these suggestions and talked amongst ourselves that the course that Morales had embarked on was very dangerous. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Well, I am pleased to hear that Mr. Morales was dutifully doing his best to please the Americans, as indeed I am. It is a complete mystery to me as to why there are people in this world who don't share this way of thinking. We shall leave today's session there. The court will now adjourn.
All rise.
Free Julian Assange. Stand up for the truth. Stand up for democracy. Stand up for free speech.
Stand up for your right to know.
That's another good one.
Free! Free!
Julian Assange.
Free! Free!
Julian Assange.
Only one decision!
No extradition.
There is only one decision!
No extradition. Sign the online petition. That's another
Free
good one.
Julian Assange petition. Google it.
We have a resolution by the National Union of Journalists, and the resolution notes, item 1, that WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange is held in Belmarsh prison awaiting United States extradition proceedings, a process that can take many years. 2, if Assange is successfully prosecuted in the US, he faces up to 175 years in prison. Item 3, that the extraterritorial application of the Espionage Act in the indictment of Assange criminalises journalistic activities. In this case, activities carried out on UK soil by a non-US national, in collaboration with numerous UK media, including The Guardian, Channel 4 and The Telegraph. Item 4, that previous statements by the General Secretary of the National Union of Journalists, by the Australian Journalists Union, the MEAA, and by the International Federation of Journalists organisations have supported Assange. Item 5, there is a political dimension to the extraditions, and that the special relationship between the UK and the US makes the extradition of Assange more likely to go ahead. They believe that Assange's indictment comes at a time of heightened threats to press in Western countries in the form of raids on newspapers and broadcasters. Government claims that the press are the enemy of the people and are actually prosecutions involving lifelong sentences for publishing accurately. That Assange's extradition to the United States would establish a dangerous precedent with regard to the prosecution of journalists in this country under the UK Official Secret Act, given that the requirement for the UK courts to accept US arguments as to dual criminality for the extradition to go ahead. 3, that press freedoms in this country will be weakened if the court accepts that the National Union of Journalists members' publishing activities in this country can give rise to criminal liability in foreign states and to consequential lawful extradition. That the publication of the Afghan and Iraq war logs and other material by WikiLeaks that is subject of the US indictment revealed important information that has benefited the public. 5, disclosing information to the public should never be equated with espionage. It also resolves to campaign to stop the extradition of Julian Assange to the US. 2, to write to the House Secretary, the Shadow Home Secretary, and the Shadow's Justice Secretary, making the Union's case on the issue. So in short, it's a very, very important statement by the British National Union of Journalists, saying this is a danger to all journalists, that any journalist may be extradited and imprisoned based on publishing truthful information that the foreign state does not like.
I've grown up with my mum since I've been a little 10, 11, 12-year-old girl. Mum's always been talking about Julian Assange and the things he's done and how wrong it's been, what the government has done. It hasn't endorsed him enough. I think Julian Assange is an example of what every Australian should be. And I think he's getting treated, obviously he's getting treated very unfairly, but the people, the real people that should be, I guess, convicted of any crime is the ones who are on top and the ones, for example, the ADF. Recently we just saw in Afghanistan what they did. I mean, they killed innocent people, innocent young boys. Our father was crying about his innocent son. It's all this stuff. And I mean, as an Australian, we can't stand for that. And I'm just really upset when I see all this, the mistreatment of Julian Assange and his children is, of course, going to have no father.
I know, that's why we're here.
A lot of people my generation, they care about social issues and stuff, but local, so they don't realise, but the issues start in your own country, it starts in your own home. These issues go so deep. And the treatment of Julian Assange sets the precedent on how every Australian who tells the truth will be treated in the future. I mean, already, the ADF last year, a lawyer was charged by revealing the war crimes and injustices that the ADF was in charge of and doing. So, all this stuff is just so rampant. I was just waiting here and listening to you guys spread the message, and I'm really, really happy that there's more Australians. It kind of restores my faith in this country a bit more every day.
Oh, good to hear. Great that you're 17 and you're really on board.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much again. You guys are just really courageous what you're doing,
Oh, you taking a photo?
Yeah. Movie.
Wait.
Video.
Free Julian. Free
Right.
Julian.
Oh. Well, it's a speak out.
Well, that isn't in the police station. It wasn't here police, it was practice services.
Alright, well, I'll leave you to it, like I said. As long as you let pedestrians pass freely and not obstruct it.
In India also we respect journalism, and we would like, as he's a family man, and he has children, so it's important that people think at least twice, read his life history on Google, know about him, learn about him, and help him. And if he is really good, then why not? Even one vote is important. even one vote can free him and change his destiny.
Yes.
And we are coming closer to to Christmas, and so I think the entire world order is changing also with this COVID, and it's going to change a lot of people's destiny. So it's important, and I think he must have got a lot of time remaining in jail in England and meditating and thinking about all the things that he protests against, and a lot of time to meditate and come to know that what exactly it is. And I think even his few words can have a big impact in the United Nations, or in the Parliament in England, or in the Parliament in America, or whatever.
Thank you.
So you're a Scotist.
Free Assange.
Yeah, mate.
Oh well.
Free Julian.